Harvest time issues in the beginning of autumn, that special time of year when the whole landscape turns into a sea of red and gold. All of our deciduous trees, those that lose their leaves in winter, begin to withdraw their energy and prepare for the cold season ahead. It can be a perfect time to wrap up warm and explore our ancient woodlands. On the eastern bank of the River Derwent is Chatsworth Old Park, a small fragment of what was a much larger deer park. The ancient pollarded oaks provide a direct link back over half a millennia, with some of the living trees over 400 years old. This looks much as it would have done during medieval times, particularly as it once formed the edge of the great royal hunting forest of Sherwood. Due to the stability of this ancient wood pasture, it has a complex invertebrate fauna found nowhere else in the Peak District. This is the long-abandoned Millersdale Quarry, and its fractured walls are now home to the distinctive, deep, harsh croak of the raven. The biggest member of the crow family, ravens are no longer as populous as they once were, with only around 8,000 breeding pairs in Britain. They prefer the mountainous uplands, their thick black feathers helping to retain heat. They are also aided by an omnivorous diet and will feed on anything they can, from berries to carrion. Ravens have appeared many times in folklore and are often seen to be unlucky portents of death. In the great Anglo-Saxon poem Beowulf is written, "Craving for carrion, the dark raven shall have its say, and tell the eagle how it fared at the feast, when, competing with the wolf, it laid bare the bones of corpses." As the days draw on, the skies turn grey and the chill of winter is on the horizon. In late October, when the sky is clear at night, temperatures rapidly drop in the hills and the cool air sinks to the bottom of the warmer valleys. This reduces the air temperature to the condensation point and triggers the formation of the most beautiful of weather features, the autumn mists. While walking the forest in autumn, amongst the rustling leaves, we have all seen the emergence of mushrooms and toadstools. Traditionally, we refer to the edible varieties as mushrooms and the inedible ones as toadstools, but scientifically that distinction bears no weight. All mushrooms and toadstools are simply the fruiting bodies of fungi. Fungi are one of the most basic components of any ecosystem, breaking down dead material and returning its nutrients to the soil. Originally thought to be plants, they are in fact in a kingdom of their own and bear more characteristics than animals than plants. Although incredibly prolific and important, we barely notice them until they send their bizarre mushrooms up to spread their spores. The shaggy inkcap is a common fungus often seen growing in the woods. The young fruit bodies first appear as white cylinders before the bell-shaped caps open out. The gills beneath the cap quickly turn black and secrete a black liquid filled with spores, a process called deliquescence. Although this takes several days in the wild, this mushroom is unusual because it will turn black and dissolve itself in a matter of hours after being picked. When young, it is an excellent edible mushroom, provided it's eaten quickly. Centuries ago, writing ink was made from the shaggy inkcap by boiling them in water with cloves. This fungus is known as a puffball. They produce their spores inside a spherical fruiting body, which when it reaches maturity either shoots up its spores with the falling pressure of raindrops or simply by opening to the wind. Allow me to illustrate. The Morel has a distinctive honeycomb appearance, with long ridges and pits running across its cap. Some members of the family are edible and prized by gourmet chefs, but others are inedible. With any wild mushroom, it's best not to take the risk of eating and just appreciate it for its bizarre beauty. When people think of fungi, the most characteristic species has to be the fly Garrick, with its bright red and white peppered top. Today it's to be seen adorning many children's books with little fairies or pixies sat on its top. But the name actually goes back to an old wise woman's legend. It used to be blended in with milk, placed in the saucer in the kitchen, and it would attract in the flies. But after consumption, they would quickly die. It's also one of the world's earliest known sources for ethnogens. These were substances used by ancient shamans to induce dream-like vision states. It was also consumed by the Vikings before going into battle. It brought on a state of fearlessness, and this is commemorated today in the word berserk. The characteristic white spots atop the fly Garrick are actually the remnants of the veil of tissue that first enclosed the young mushroom. They disappear with age, the fruiting body usually lasting no more than a week. After all, slugs do find it very tasty. Another side effect of consumption for humans is a perceived distortion in the size of objects. Allegedly, Lewis Carroll's hookah-smoking caterpillar in Alice's Adventures in Wonderland was inviting her to take a bite from a fly Garrick. I would strongly advise against anyone giving in to temptation and trying one for themselves. The results can be deadly. A mushroom you have probably not seen is this, the pink ballerina. It is very rare in the countryside and is a member of the waxcap family, which like nutrient-deprived soils. In England, this usually equates to high pasture or locations where animals are fed in the day and moved to lower ground at night, not returning their consumed nutrients back to the soil. Its flared, radially split caps do give it the appearance of a pirouetting ballet dancer. The pink waxcap grows just below the landmark of White Nancy in the lee of a great beech tree. It remained unnoticed here until first discovered in the 1990s. The pink ballerina may be rare, but surely the Peak District's most elusive and fantastical of all fungi is the earth star. This mushroom first takes on the appearance of a dried onion, but when exposed to rain, its outer layer cracks and uncurls, forming a star with 4 to 12 rays. The inner layer contains the spore sac and remains closed except for a small hole at its top. When raindrops hit, their weight causes the spores contained within to be ejected high up into the air. Earth stars have no culinary value, but are used in China as a hemostatic agent to reduce the bleeding from wounds. No folklore survives concerning the Earth Star in England, but in America the Blackfoot Indians referred to the fungus as fallen stars, considering them to be stars that had fallen to the earth during a supernatural event. In the 8th century, the Catholic Church chose November the 1st as All Saints' Day, a festival to honour any saint who didn't have their own day. The Mass said on that day was called All Hallows Mass, and so the night before became All Hallows Eve. But the festival we celebrate on the 31st of October has more to do with its pagan origins, for this is the ancient festival of Samhain, the beginning of the Celtic New Year. The old year has passed, the harvest has been reaped, and life has retreated from the world. This was a time for honouring the spirits of the ancestors who came before, not just ancient, but those recently dearly departed. Our modern Halloween celebrations are a far cry from their roots. But one festival more in touch with its roots takes place just a few days later and fills the autumn sky with light. Bonfire Night's origins date back to the 5th of November 1605, when Guy Fawkes' ill-made plan to blow up the Houses of Parliament was foiled. Knowing that their king had been saved, Londoners joyfully lit bonfires that evening in thanksgiving, and as the years progressed the ritual became more and more elaborate. Soon effigies of Guy Fawkes and even his wife, Mrs. Fawkes, were thrown onto the bonfire to cheer and song. In some parts of the country, effigies of the Pope even graced the pyres, though now they are seen as a tradition rather than a political statement. Nowadays, though the festival still makes headlines each year with people presenting often unduly sensitive attitudes to many of the evening's activities, we enjoy it all the more.
Go.